Good afternoon. It's your boy Terrell coming at you today on a nice, beautiful day once again. Looking to take it in a different direction. Normally, talk about politics, but talk about a story. It's been in the news recently. It's actually a story that's been a long time coming, so to speak. Michael Jordan recently stepped up and, you know, gave some, money to two important causes that were important to him. It was kind of a response to the police-involved shootings of unarmed black men, and he released a statement that corresponded with it, saying he could no longer sit silent, as these things occur. Um, Michael Jordan, it's a complex thing to unpack. Many take the position that Michael Jordan's a day late and a dollar short, many years late and many millions of dollars short, in fact. Um, Michael Jordan, you have to look at it from the context in which he was raised. Michael Jordan, he's a child of born in the 60s, raised in the 70s to parents who actually moved from the north to the south, Brooklyn, New York, to North Carolina. And, his parents, they raised him, Dolores, and his father, James Jordan Sr. They raised him to kind of, go along and really, kind of soldier on and do what is asked of him. That's what makes him a good athlete. He sees the world in a way where everything is a meritocracy. You work hard and you get rewarded. And for many years, he saw it that way until, he took ownership of the Washington Wizards. Um, he and Abe Pollin, the owner of the Washington Wizards, concocted a plan, after Michael Jordan's retirement to get him back in the game in 2001 after 9/11 to lift the value of the Washington Wizards. Um, that went on for 3 years, and he was to buy back in and, have an equity stake and make more money in it. But it didn't quite go that way. Abe, kind of turned on him, said, hey, this is my team. Thanks for lifting the shareholder value, but goodbye. And, Michael Jordan, I guess, he learned a lesson from that. And, he bought back into ownership to the Charlotte Bobcats, which is now the Charlotte Hornets. Big businessman. So he's been, you know, seeing the world from a corporate kind of a lens for many years as a brand. And I wrote on this. I used to write for Bleacher Report before it became corporatized, so to speak. And I wrote many articles on Michael Jordan, the brand, Michael Jordan, the player, some, great games, that sort of thing. So, look at the perspective in which he comes from, can show you the outcomes of where he looked to invest. Then the letter that he wrote, you know, talking about he can no longer remain silent. There's lots of holes in that letter. In fact, he talks about the cowardice of the people shooting the police, and that's a very cowardly act. But he doesn't, talk about, on the other hand, the cowardice of the police shooting unarmed black men. He talks about it as if it's a thing of racial tension, meaning there are two combatant sides and there's just tension. And at some point, there was calm, and there was never calm, and that's why, it's based on the way he sees the world. LeBron James, for instance, he grew up, with Rodney King being a big case, Honorable Diablo, which, it leads to his activism. LeBron James is more involved, more, trying to help people out. He's not a Johnny come lately to the causes, and he doesn't engender that same type of reaction. Michael Jordan grew up in a period in the 80s where, greed was good. When he was building his brand Jordan, that is, he's building it up, and it was all about greed was good. You're special. He went to the best colleges, North Carolina, and kind of isolated from the rest of the students and told, you're special, stay away from those people over there. So, and we see a lot of that. So, as he's become isolated, bad news stories, and, directly, you can look at the Jordan sales, they're down, where, they're down because a lot of people are seeing there's no value in buying into the past for actually more money. They're great shoes. I love the Jordan 11s. I've actually had, some pair of Jordans growing up, but there was never that giving back to a community. Jordan was never plugged into a community per se. Going to a Chicago Bulls game growing up in the 90s, the late 80s. Very, very expensive. In fact, I didn't go to my first game at the Chicago Stadium before they tore it down and built it up as the United Center until they had a Ameritech Classic they'd run every year in September. Scottie Pippen would actually run it. It's my favorite bull because the way he played on the floor, he's unselfish, hand the ball off, build up the players around him. Ameritech would run a game for kids and back to school, and Jesse Jackson, Operation Push, big sponsors of that along with Scottie Pippen and Ameritech. Those are the games I was able to go to. Prices were just fine. I was able to kind of get a ticket out of the people in the Rev Circle. So, I mean, that's what got me to go to a game. And otherwise, it was two different Americas in the 80s. There were the corporate guys going to see Michael Jordan, and that's the face he looked at. That's the face he looked at for approval. Many people argue in the black community he didn't give back, he didn't do all he can, but that was the face he was looking into. That's what he saw, going for that acceptance. But as that acceptance is kind of peeled away, he's older, he's an owner, he's less in the news. He's putting news stories out there through Scoop Jackson, trying to get out positive news stories. And right now it comes off as you can't buy authenticity. And, I'd like to see where this story goes, but it's a backlash. I don't think he's going to get the mileage out of it because at this point, he's built up a kind of a track record of really doing nothing. And trying to buy authenticity late in the game is going to be tough. It all goes back to kind of how he was brought up. Magic Johnson, for example, he's a poor kid out of East Lansing. He grew up wanting to be a businessman, kicking his feet up on the desk when his father would clean offices. And, he wanted to be a businessman because he wanted to give back to his community. That starts from an early age. And you see that in Magic Johnson, the things he builds up. Michael Jordan, he was kind of isolated. The Jordans, they were the Black Huxtables. One of Jordan's brothers, big man in the military, captain or what have you. Sisters, they're in corporate America. Not that that's a bad thing. We need people in all type of walks of life. But if you're looking for activism, that's not going to happen. And it's not going to happen structurally because athletes represent 3% of the richest 1%. So, lots of us, we have to build up our own communities and keep ourselves accountable. But yes, Michael Jordan does have a duty and kind of responsibility to the broader collective, so to speak, of black people and broader collective of all the people that made him rich. But, just kind of throwing it out there. But I'd like to see how the story develops. You follow it too. Have a good one.